Hey, Ryan. Hi, this is Sarah Palin.
Ryan, Donald Trump Jr.
Hogs to win, see you. Hey, everybody, I want y'all to check out a fellow Marines podcast.
My name is Ted Nugent, and I got a call from my buddy Ryan F. Samuels, and he wants me to tell you that he's a working hard, playing all-American son of a who is celebrating God, family, country.
Welcome to the Ryan Samuels Show, one of the top political podcasts in the United States, where we have a healthy distrust for government and mainstream media. The Ryan Samuels Show is a raw, unfiltered look at American politics. Follow on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, and all podcast platforms. Here is your host, Ryan Samuels.
Hello, Patriots. We're here and we are live. And Alejandro Mayorkas is facing impeachment by the House. This comes after, obviously, our border has been left completely wide open by the Biden administration. This is a serious situation for our country, and I'm glad to see that the House Republicans are actually doing something about it. That's the good thing about this is that they're actually going to impeach him. They're not just talking about it. It's something that is going to happen, and it's official. Let's see this alert from Fox News on the situation.
DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas have just been released.
Peter Ducey joins us now with all the details. Hi, Peter.
And Carly, this is not something that's going to get pulled down by the House if the Senate border negotiations take a turn, because they're not happy in the House with the Senate border negotiations. And besides, in these official articles of impeachment, they are accusing Mayorkas of lying to them.
Well, he did lie to them.
It's a key quote from the articles. It says, Alejandro and Mayorkas knowingly made false statements to Congress that the border is secure, that the border is no less secure than it was previously, that the border is closed, and that DHS has operational control of the border. And then there's this, quote, throughout his tenure as Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro N. Mayorkas has repeatedly violated laws enacted by Congress regarding immigration and border security. In large part because of his unlawful conduct, millions of aliens have illegally entered the United States on an annual basis, with many unlawfully remaining in the United States. His refusal to obey the law is not only an offense against the separation of powers in the Constitution of the United States, it also threatens our national security. And now, the Homeland Security Committee's chairman, Mark Green, is breaking it down like this. He says about Mayorkas, he has breached the public trust by knowingly making false statements to Congress and the American people and obstructing congressional oversight of his department. These facts are beyond dispute, and the results of his lawless behavior have been disastrous for our country. DHS is responding to this. They have a brand new statement. It says, this farce of an impeachment is a distraction from other vital national security priorities.
Other vital national security priorities. We have hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants flooding the border every month, and the Biden administration and Alejandro Mayorkas is allowing them in the country. There is no more important national security priority than this. There is none. This is an invasion. We are under invasion. Millions of people, since Joe Biden took office, are coming into this country unvetted, unchecked. Nobody knows their background. They're just walking in, and we're giving them $3,000 and a cell phone for each one. These are people that we know about that have been caught. That absolutely preposterous to call this a farce. Congress has this oversight. This is a proper authority of Congress. They have this oversight to regulate these departments and hold them accountable.
And the work Congress should be doing to actually fix our broken immigration laws. But that is unlikely to move any of these House Republicans. And the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, says they are going to move to vote on these articles of impeachment for Mayorkas as soon as possible. Back to you.
All right, Peter Ducey.
Now, this could end up very bad for Alejandro Mayorkas. This could mean him just losing his job. The Congress and the Senate have the power to remove him. But is that likely? Probably not. But he should be. He should absolutely be. And I hope that they do. He should be removed, and there should be a message sent to the Biden administration. Or if Biden is making him do this, then he needs to come out and say it. Donald Trump had the Remain in Mexico policy. And this policy was probably one of the best border policies in the history of the United States. If you wanted to claim asylum, so all you have to do is come here and say, I'm seeking asylum. And they say, okay, well, you have to go to a court date. Now they let you in the country. And yeah, we give you a cell phone. We'll call you with a court date. And then they just don't show up and they're just running around the United States. Trump's Remain in Mexico policy said, you're seeking asylum. That's great. You have to wait in Mexico outside of the United States until your court date. Not run around the United States unvetted. You have to wait until your court date before we will allow you in the country, which is perfectly normal. And it worked. It's logical. It makes sense. It's simple. We don't have to pay to feed, detain, hold anybody. It's less resources, less taxpayer money. It's incredible. And of course, the first thing Biden did when he got in office is anything that Trump did, we need to reverse. And it's backfiring. It's a disaster. This is an absolute disaster for the Biden administration. This is the single most important topic of the 2024 election. And Joe Biden is getting whooped in this situation, and rightfully so, because of his own border policies.
Mayorkas, while the House does have a tiny little majority of Republicans, the Senate's not going to pass it. They're not going to get 2/3 majority.
No, they're not. But the thing is, look, I don't fault the House. If they have a basis for impeachment, regardless what the other House does, they have an obligation to proceed. I just don't believe that they have a cognizable basis here for impeachment. The first article is basically a disagreement about the level of enforcement being done by this administration. The Republicans are right. We have an open border.
Right.
This is a huge crisis. But that is a policy judgment made by the president. The courts have said that presidents can give priority in the enforcement of federal laws. And this is not the first president who's been challenged over lack of enforcement at the border.
Sure. Mayorkas.
He's basically saying that, yes, this gentleman that's on Fox News is saying that, yes, the border's wide open. However, it's Joe Biden's fault and not Mayorkas. That's preposterous. Mayorkas is the head of the Department of Homeland Security. Everything falls on his doorstep. And then it falls on Joe Biden's, but it falls on his too. And if the president is forcing him to do these unethical conduct, he needs to speak up to Congress and say, Joe Biden is ordering me to do that. Joe Biden's ordering me to do this. But he'll lose his job because Joe Biden will immediately remove him from office if he becomes a whistleblower. But here is MSNBC, of course, playing they're playing lead block on this situation.
News is breaking right now, and folks are digesting this. Understand, fundamentally, this is a stunt. This is not about anything that Mayorkas, the secretary, has done that violates his constitutional oath of office, that falls into the high crimes or misdemeanor category that is required by the Constitution. This is purely a policy disagreement. And, it ain't really that, because Republicans haven't put up a policy that they could counter what Mayorkas has done and what the administration has done. So
they did. It was the Remain in Mexico policy. Joe Biden reversed it. This is all Joe Biden's fault.
I think it's important for us to really contextualize this moment, because yet again, impeachment is being thrown around and used as a political cudgel.
Are you trying to say that they're weaponizing the impeachment process, even though Donald Trump was impeached twice on completely bogus charges? And he has 94 indictments?
against the opponents of the Republicans that they disagree with on policy. I just want to put that on the table.
Notice that Democrats always tell you what they're doing, but they just accuse you of doing it. The Democrats have been weaponizing the entire Department of Homeland Security since Barack Obama. Barack Obama was the one who started all of that. Remember members of the Tea Party? There's a little political organization called Taxed Enough Already. They called it the Tea Party. And then they all started getting visits by the IRS by order of the by the Obama administration. It was a huge scandal. And of course, that went to the wayside. Barack Obama, he was the one who persecuted his opponents politically. And Joe Biden is doing the same thing. It's Obama 3.0, except this is way, way beyond what Barack Obama was doing with persecuting their political opponents. He's sitting here, think about this. He's sitting here accusing the Republicans of persecuting their political opponents after the Republicans have been saying you are persecuting us as political opponents. After you're saying that. So you're just repeating what they're saying and you're just telling us what you're doing.
Because it's important. I think it's an important aspect for people to understand. So don't all get all excited and hyped up about this. Oh, my God, what did the secretary do? He ain't do nothing except do what secretaries do, and that's enforce the policy of the administration that Republicans happen to disagree with.
To that point, Benny Thompson.
Nonsense. Absolutely nonsense. He lied to Congress. He was under oath. He said that the border's no different than it is. Here's another MSNBC report. God, I love this channel. It's like entertainment. It's like watching the Onion News Network or the Babylon Bee. It's just so ridiculous. You have to say, wait a minute, is this a real story? Are they trying to say that this isn't satire?
And we are back with breaking news from Capitol Hill. House Republicans have just unveiled 2 articles of impeachment they're bringing against Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. The first is focused on what they call a willful and systemic refusal to comply with the law. The second is focused on what they're alleging is a breach of public trust. The reason? Republicans disagree with how the secretary is handling the humanitarian crisis at the southern border.
Humanitarian crisis, they disagree. Notice the word tracks are the same with MSNBC or any mainstream media. No matter what show you're watching, the word tracks are the same. They don't write their own show and do their own investigating. They walk up, they sit down, and they read off the teleprompter. They don't write the teleprompter. They perform the teleprompter. They're professional entertainers. That's what they do. So everything they're giving you is fed to them. So you're going to notice whatever political agenda needs to be pushed, these people at MSNBC are being fed it through a teleprompter, and they're just reading it. So whether they agree with it or not, they didn't do any looking into this. They're just repeating what the narrative is, what's being pushed down to them.
In response, the Department of Homeland Security released this statement, quote, "This farce of an impeachment is a distraction from other vital national security priorities and the work Congress should be doing to actually fix our broken immigration laws. Republicans don't want to fix the problem. They want to campaign on it."
So just to be clear here, this is the Department of Homeland Security blaming Republicans for not fixing the problem. The department itself is blaming. The departments are supposed to be non-political. They're supposed to be non-political. They're supposed to be unbiased. They're not supposed to be right. They're not supposed to be left. They're there to enforce the laws. But they say here, this is their Homeland Security response to impeachment articles. This farce of an impeachment is a distraction from other vital national security priorities and the work Congress should be doing to actually fix our broken immigration laws. They don't want to fix the problem. They want to campaign on it. That's an official statement from the Department of Homeland Security. That is way out of line. Way out of line. You report to Congress. which is elected by the people. So that's where we, the people, you work for us. You work for the House of Representatives. And if they want to impeach you, if they want to subpoena you before Congress, you best get your ass there and answer the friggin' questions. And don't lie about it. But the Department of Homeland Security has been so weaponized and so just turned to the left that they're sitting here blaming the right for the problems that they're doing. And I mean, you want to say our immigration system is broken? It's because you refuse to fix it. The Democrats don't want to fix it. They call it a humanitarian. It's a humanitarian crisis. It's not a humanitarian crisis. Anyone who believes that millions of people are actually seeking asylum from where? From where? Seeking asylum from what? Are you proving what you're seeking asylum from? Have you been excommunicated? Are you being politically persecuted from a communist or totalitarian regime? And even if you are, there's nothing saying we have to let you in. That's up to the country. That's not up to, it's up to the people. It's up to Congress. And it's broken because Democrats refuse to acknowledge it as a problem. You just heard it on MSNBC, them calling it a humanitarian problem. What they want to do is get as many people into this country as humanly possible. They want to get anybody and everybody that they can get from other countries to come into this country because they're going to vote Democrat. And that's exactly what they want. They want millions of votes because they cannot win on their merits because they have none. Democrats cannot win campaigns on their successes because they have none. They have none. Nothing. Joe Biden is an absolute disaster. We now have American troops dying with this conflict between Iran and Israel and, the Houthi rebels, and Joe Biden's really not doing anything about it. He's doing nothing. I mean, what is he doing? He shot a rocket at a couple of empty tents, but that was really it. What are you doing in Iran? You're going to give him another $6 billion? The entire world is falling apart since Joe Biden took office. It's chaos. And the only people who are reaping the benefits are his donors and his politically corrupt friends and his son, Hunter. I mean, that's the reality of what's going on here. Before we go any further, make sure you hit that like button right down there. Rumble button if you're on Rumble. Follow this page for more content just like this. Let's watch this other clip from Fox News.
And what happens Tuesday when these impeachment articles against Alejandro Mayorkas come to the floor?
Well, this is very important as House Republicans are the last line of defense, and we're holding the Biden administration and Joe Biden accountable for the catastrophe at our southern border. Our committee chair, Mark Green of Homeland Security, has done a tremendous job and has shown to the American people that there has been a willful and refusal to comply with the law and an abuse of power in the position as Secretary of Homeland Security. You have a wide open border. It is the number one issue for Americans across the country, and it's not just the border states, Maria, who are impacted. It's my home state of New York as well. Every state is a border state. So the committee will mark up those articles of impeachment and work through the process to bring them to the floor. And I think what's most telling is Democrats are refusing to hold Joe Biden accountable for this border crisis that Joe Biden and his cabinet have created.
And what happened?
They are absolutely refusing to place it on his doorstep. They're trying to place it on Republicans. I mean, how does that make any sense? How are you going to blame Republicans for that? It doesn't even make any sense. It makes zero sense, as a matter of fact. None. None whatsoever. So here is the actual articles of impeachment. And we're going to read them. Let's look at what the actual charges are. The impeachment proceedings of DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, fact sheet 5, the articles of impeachment. The House Committee on Homeland Security has released its articles of impeachment against DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. These articles follow a nearly year-long comprehensive 5-phased investigation into the causes, costs, and consequences of the unprecedented border crisis and the initiation of impeachment proceedings earlier this year. They show that the Secretary Mayorkas has committed high crimes and misdemeanors by refusing to comply with the laws passed by Congress and breaching the public trust. Article 1, willful and systematic refusal to comply with the law. Secretary Mayorkas has violated his oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States by willfully and systematically refusing to comply with federal immigration laws and acting in a manner subversive of the rule of law. Despite clear evidence that his willful and systematic refusal to comply with the law has led to unprecedented levels of illegal immigration, the fentanyl crisis, cartel control at the southwest border, and debilitating human and financial costs. Secretary Mayorkas has implemented a catch and release scheme, violating detention requirements and misusing parole authority. Key statutory defenses. Secretary Mayorkas has willfully refused to comply with the numerous detention requirements spelled out by the Immigration and Nationality Act. He has instead implemented a mass catch and release scheme whereby apprehended aliens are released without effective mechanisms to ensure appearances before an immigration court. They're just catching them and saying, well, we're going to call you when you have court. Here's a cell phone. This section 235B2A, a lot of legal sectioning there, requires that all applicants for admission who are not clearly and beyond doubt entitled to be admitted shall be detained for a removal proceeding. Requires all aliens placed into expedited removal proceedings and determined to have credible fear of prosecution still be detained for further consideration of the application for asylum. Requires that an alien who is placed into expedited removal proceedings and determined not to have a credible fear of persecution shall be detained until removed. Section 236 of the INA requires that an alien who is inadmissible or deportable on certain criminal and terrorism-related grounds shall be taken into custody. In 2021, Secretary Mayorkas authored enforcement guidelines instructing ICE officials that the fact an individual is a removable non-citizen should not alone be the basis of an enforcement action against them, and that the DHS personnel should not rely on the fact or of conviction alone, even with the respect of removable aliens. In Texas v. United States, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals concluded that this guidance had every indication of being general policy, that this is so extreme as to amount to an abdication of statutory responsibilities. There's an ellipsis there. And that its replacement of Congress's statutory mandates was plainly outside the bounds and power conferred by the INA. Section 241A2 of the INA requires that an alien ordered removed shall be detained during the removal period. Another violation, Section 236A of the INA permits, in certain circumstances, the arrest of aliens on an administrative arrest warrant. Secretary Mayorkas used this statute to release aliens arrest without warrant who were subject to mandatory detention. This is the second page of this, fact sheet 5. It is vital to note that these violations are not simply matters of prosecutorial discretion. Secretary Mayorkas has crossed the line from discretion to suspension of law. Congress has set policy priorities. Secretary Mayorkas is ignoring them for his own priorities. Parole. Secretary Mayorkas has also willfully misused parole authority laid out in 212D5A of the INA that permits parole to be granted only on a case-by-case basis temporarily and for urgent humanitarian reasons or significant public benefit. He has paroled aliens en masse into the country despite the U.S. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals conclusion in Texas v. Biden. Paroling every alien cannot detain is the opposite of a case-by-case basis. Determinations required by law and DHS's pretended power to parole aliens while ignoring the limitations Congress imposed on the parole power. It's misenforcement, suspension of the INA, or both. Secretary Mayorkas has created, reopened, and expanded a series of categorical parole programs never authorized by Congress for foreign nationals, enabling hundreds of thousands of inadmissible aliens to enter the United States without authorization. That's just the first part of it. This is Article 2. This is just a summary. This isn't the whole impeachment inquiry. This is Article 2, breach of public trust. Secretary Mayorkas has breached the public trust by violating his oath to well and faithfully discharge the duties of his office and his statutory duty to control and guard the border of the United States. Secretary Mayorkas willfully failed to replace the enforcement initiatives he had abandoned with viable alternatives that would enable DHS to control and guard the border. He has also breached the trust of Congress and the American people by knowingly making false statements about the results of his willful and systematic refusal to comply with the law. Finally, Secretary Mayorkas has obstructed the committee's work on vital oversight investigations, even necessitating the issuance of still unsatisfied subpoenas. Summary. These articles are the product of thorough, fair, and comprehensive investigation into causes, costs, and consequences of unprecedented border crisis. The evidence shows that Secretary Mayorkas' lawless behavior warrants impeachment. 100%. There is no reason on earth this clown deserves a job. This clown does not deserve a job. Your job as the secretary is to defend the nation from all of these illegal border crossings. And all you have done is expand it and allow people to come in and parole them on your own through your executive order in violation of Congress's law. You can't do that. You don't have that power. This is absolute betrayal. It's treason. It's a violation that is placing the entire country at risk. I mean, that sounds hyperbolic, but think about it. Millions of people, known terrorists, have come here. 350 we have caught. Forget about the ones we haven't counted. You know, if you've never been down to the border, at some places there's just no wall. Like across there's an Indian reservation in Arizona where it's just like a 3-foot fence. It's like 1,100 miles of border. How do you even man all of that? You can't. So you can't regulate who's coming in and who's coming out. And the person who is in charge of making sure this border is secure has not only just failed in his role and in his position, but has allowed this to happen, is actively encouraging it. He believes he can make the decisions on who should be allowed in and who should not. You do not have executive power to bypass law. And that is the problem with Democrats. Democrats believe they have total, unrivaled authority to do anything that they want to do. They're tyrants. It's tyranny in 2024. But the House is doing the right thing, and it is extraordinarily highly unlikely that he had been removed from office, but they are showing their strength and what they can do and what they need to do and bringing it to the public light. And that's what they're supposed to do. And they will bring him and they will make him look like a fool once again. Thank you for tuning in. This is Ryan Samuels. Do not forget, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Don't forget to visit ryanfsamuels.com. And if you're on the podcast, leave a review. Thank you very much, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to the Ryan Samuels Show. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.